we became parents of a child with sickle cell disease. And so that just little bit of history is why sickle cell trait is so important to me. And so, if you're not familiar with me in the community, you've probably heard about my books. I write children's books about sickle cell disease. I also work for Cayenne Wellness Center in California. I'm the co-founder and co-host of the Caregiver Summit. And so you've seen me in a lot of spaces if you're familiar with the sickle cell community. And so I am just truly happy and honored to be able to talk to you today about therapy. So Heather is one of our amazing founders, co-founders of the I Believe in Therapy campaign. And so Heather, I'll let you tell a little bit more about yourself.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for Dr. Austin and Genesis for inviting us on. I wasn't sure if I was actually ready to do this, so uh, there was a little push there. My name is Heather Avant. I am an advocate. I am an SS advocate. I have sickle cell, as well as my brother has sickle cell. My parents are both trait warriors, as well as my son is a trait warrior. So, um, I have to know all sides of it. I can't just know how one thing flows. I have to know how everything works. It's a very interesting space to be in. Um, but I say that to say I've been advocating for patients for years and years and years. And I recently started calling myself the advocate's advocate because a lot of times, as advocates, especially working in this space, we don't have people who advocate for us, even though we're out here trying to do the good fight. Um, I work as the chair of the community input panel for Cure Sickle Cell Initiative through the NHLBI. And I get to be the voice of patients across the country in regards to all things curative and transformational therapy in the country. And it's an amazing honor to be that voice in that space and to offer, opinions from the community. So I get to kind of be the communal voice. I'm always looking for new voices and I'm always asking questions. Um, but I believe in therapy with my colleague and my friend Carly. She came up upon the idea, and I just was not going to let it die, and I just decided to work her like a workhorse and was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this thing. Are you in or not?" And she was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm in." Reluctantly, I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't think it was reluctantly, but we have taken the I Believe in Therapy campaign national, and we are so proud of the campaign itself. And it's a true testament to the fact that um, therapy isn't something that we do, I guess, as a community, at least in sickle cell, not coming up, not as a person of my status, not being a warrior, especially. I'd never talked about it. And even still, it's very taboo in a lot of circles. I remember telling my mother I was going to therapy, and she said, "Oh, I didn't know it got that bad." And I was like, it's not, just don't want it to get bad. And it's just we're here to break the stigma of what therapy means and how to actually go about even starting. Where do you start? Because a lot of times we don't even know where to start with therapy. And I've had my own struggles, even trying to find a therapist myself. And I know Carly has too. It's not an easy thing to do, is to delve into the world of getting help when you can no longer help yourself.
Well said, Heather. You know, we are just starting an open conversation right now with you all about how did you hear about therapy? So when we think back about therapy, I remember we were having a conversation, Heather, and we were talking about, just growing up in a community where we didn't, therapy wasn't welcomed. And so I think it's a very different place now in the community, in the society that we live in. But growing up, I grew up in a very religious household, and I was told, if something is wrong, you just take it to Jesus, which there is nothing wrong with that. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that is a problem, but I'm saying that when I started to be honest with myself about carrying a child with a chronic illness and learning how to navigate this space when it was uncharted territory for me. And you go through a lot of things emotionally. So, as a caregiver who has a child with a genetic disorder, I'm going to be really honest. At first, I went through the feelings of guilt. And I wasn't, no one ever said, hey, talk to a therapist at that time. I needed somebody to reach out. I did have my husband, but he didn't understand what I was going through. And so I started to talk to one of my friends who was a therapist. And she was saying, you probably should talk to someone about what you're feeling. And so with this particular initiative, we say, I believe in therapy because we want that to be a household phrase. We want it to be something where you don't feel like it's less than or it's a taboo subject or it's something that you can't own. When we say, I believe in therapy, we're taking ownership that this is something that is a tool that is readily available to us, and we want it to be available to others as well. And so that's why we're talking about it because in the chronic illness space, it is a topic where we're mainly talking about physical health, but we want to make no mistakes about making it very clear to everybody that your physical health is extremely important, but so is your mental health. And this being May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, what better time than now to really highlight what an importance and what a great big help it's been to have a therapist. And I want to just, before I give you the floor again, Heather, I want to just say and be very transparent with the audience that after my daughter was diagnosed with sickle cell disease, I went through a period where I kind of just stayed in the house. I wanted to protect her, didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to really do anything extra. I just went into this hyper mama bear mode. And it was very stifling, not only for me, but for her, for my entire family. And it was isolating. And I know that I am not alone in that experience, but we have to be honest and talk about it. And so I didn't know anybody in my community who had sickle cell disease, and I didn't have anybody to turn to. And that's really how I came into this space. I wanted an opportunity to learn from incredible warriors just like Heather and learn from a community that was talking about sickle cell trait like the As One Foundation and be able to embrace that knowledge and embrace the community. And so by coming into this space and coming into this community, not being afraid to be open and honest about my experiences, I've been able to find healing, able to find peace, connection, and advocacy, which has really helped me not stifle my child. It's been a whole 180. I've been able to change that perspective completely. So, Heather, I want you to kind of tell a little bit more about your background around therapy and why this campaign was so pivotal in your life.
Oh, goodness. So, my background with therapy, the first time I went to therapy, I actually was 25 years old and I had lost a
So
friend
you mean
or a
you're aging backwards then? What are you like 21 now?
sure, we'll go with that. Actually, you know what? I'm amazing. I'm amazed and I'm so I call it my anointing. I'm so blessed. I am 44 years old and
No way.
it is such an amazing and such a blessing to be 44 years old because God has gave me 44 years that especially as a warrior. But when I was 25, I remember going to therapy. That was the first time I went to therapy. I had lost a friend, and she was also a mentee of mine at the time. And but I had lost a series of mentees. So I had lost one after another. And we were part of a support group and they were all under me. And I was the leader of this group and they all started dying.
Mm.
And I was like a little bit of in shock, I guess, or awe, and didn't really know how to place those emotions because these women and men were passing away of something that I had dealt with personally or that I was dealing with. And they were not unlike me. And so I faced my own mortality during that time. And I was being called into question as to, okay, what was I afraid to live? Because that could be me. So should I not go outside? Should I quit my job? How do I prevent that from happening to me? But then the thing is there was no real answer to preventing it. And so my doctor was like, my hematologist said, you need to talk to someone about this because this is a big deal. And I remember, being snide and, oh, I don't need therapy.
Mhm.
Like, what are they going to do for me? Because, in your head of hearts, you're like, oh, that's not for me. But I went reluctantly, I'm pretty sure with all the smart comments thrown in there. And I remember just sitting down talking to her and she was just kind of like, this is a lot. You're literally looking at your own mortality. And not a lot of people in their 20s can say that they've done that and do that. And then not only have you done it once, but you've done it like 7 times. That's a lot for any one young person to handle. And of course, you're still living with this disease. So I went to therapy for a while. And then I got married and then I had my son. And then I found myself again questioning everything because now it's not just me. It's not just Heather and my husband. It was Heather and this little baby who has trait now, who has half of me. And I had to figure out how to navigate motherhood as a warrior and taking care of someone who is also half of me. And how do I do that? And postpartum depression, I'm sure was all up in the mix, was like telling me, oh, you can't do this. You're not good enough. What were you thinking? And then, as far as being a warrior, having the fatigue and trying to maintain my own physical health as well as take care of someone else was so many issues. And all of that was happening. And as my son was young, all that was happening around, like, why don't we talk about mental health? And I remember asking my mom when my son was probably 3 or 4. And I said, I feel like I'm going crazy. And she's like, oh, you just pray about it.
Mm.
Or have you read your word today?
Mm.
That's not helpful. Now, my mama is a minister, my daddy was a deacon. So I grew up in this space where, it was read your Bible because the answers are in the word. And I'm like, that is not helping me. And I would go to my mom and I would say, Mom, I don't know what to do. What do I do? I don't know how to raise this boy. I don't have energy to take care of myself, let alone take care of this boy. And my mom's like, oh, you'll figure it out. All parents do. And I'm like, that's not helpful. And so back to therapy.
Mhm.
And this time I stuck around for about 3 years.
Mhm.
And I really laid it all on the line. For those 3 years, it was really intensive. It was twice a week. And I really got to really work through a lot of the things, the barriers and the burdens that were holding me back as far as just living my life, not only as a mother, but as a warrior in this space. I was as an advocate, as a wife, as a mother, as someone who owns her own business, and then, of course, working as an advocate. And then, years later, Carly and I were talking about different ways to build the therapy around this thought process of warriors going through this change of going into and having these therapies. And I was like, Genesis was a big starting point for me. Genesis
And
and I
by
had a
that
relationship.
therapy, you're talking about the therapeutic, the bone marrow transplant or the gene modification, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. She was going through this new treatment and she was so full of joy and she was so young and I saw how young she was and I saw how impressionable she was. And I remember I constantly kind of asking those hard-hitting questions. What happens if it doesn't work? what happens? And I was reading the list of side effects. What happens if this happens? What happens? And she'd say, oh, well, that's not going to happen. Or she'd, or she'd say, oh, well, it'll be fine. And I was so concerned. And she was so like, it's good. It's going to be great. And I was like, in my head, I remember talking to her grandmother and like, am I the only one concerned about these things? And she's like, no. I was like, okay, because I'm kind of internally freaking out. And I remember I kept going back to Genesis saying, but do you understand?
Mm.
And she's like, yeah, I get it. But of course, she's in her 19-year-old brain. And I'm in my 30 something year old brain at the time. And I'm like, well, but do you really understand? And yeah. And then as we got closer to it and closer into that space, I started seeing the cracks. And I was like, these are problems, right? These are bigger issues. And so what I can do is I can take this to the top of the top and say, there needs to be something. We need to figure out a way to stop this or to intercede it. Let's figure out a way to build layers into these clinical trials that involve mental health, because we cannot send patients in with their young, youthful, glorious naivete, which I am all here for. Like, be naive. Like, I loved it. I mean, I wish I could go back and be sometimes just as naive, because God help me. Growing up is like, whoo, it's a full workout. But I didn't want to steal that from her. And I didn't want to steal the joy of hope, and the possibility of hope. But I also wanted there to be some type of component to pull you back down to earth, to help you understand this is big deal. And so as we were going through each of these phases, I remember my question to her, and she would second this would be, are you going to therapy? Are you talking to therapists? And she's so sweet. She would never roll her eyes at me, but I think internally she rolled her eyes all the time. Like, like, stop asking about therapy. I think I asked her about therapy last month. I was like, are you in therapy?
Yeah.
Are you going to therapy? Because I think it's so pivotal when you're going through these changes. It doesn't matter the age. And for me right now, I'm going through a change. My father just passed away a couple of months ago. So we're constantly in these changes of life. And are we backing them up with something substantial, something that we can hold on to? Because I had a friend who used to say, I therapize myself. Girl, no, you are not. No, no, you're not. Because we can't see our own blind spots. But Genesis was really a big driving force for me, showing that there needed to be layers built in. And the only way I knew how to take those layers is to really go to the government and say, we have to make a standard operating procedure. There needs to be some standard of mental health awareness, because we cannot go walk into these spaces blind. We're sending patients into these areas with a 1 hour screening. That is not enough, because my fear is that these patients are coming out on the other end of that if it didn't work, and they're thinking that it's their fault. What didn't I do right? Or when does it end? I'm tired of all of this. I'm tired of this. This happens and this happens and this happens. And instead, we're not teaching them with the tools of, this may be your life. Now what? How do we move forward from this? What are our next steps?
This is amazing. I'm struck by the description of advocate's advocate, which sort of, mimics a statement that I make a lot about sickle cell trait being the disparity within the disparity. But the hopeful thing about this conversation, this topic in particular, is that it's designed by people that get it. And that is often the first, most important step that is often missed. Having the people in my field of public health, community-based participatory research is one way to do research that involves the population that is being studied. They must be at the table. They are taught and welcome to the research process. They own the data. Community-based participatory research. So to have a therapeutic, the mental health program, I believe in therapy, or campaign, be designed by people that have experienced what I call the 1,000-leg table, of sickle cell and all of the things, and you guys represent the caregiver, the advocate's advocate. You represent the patient, you represent having to educate your own doctors and all of those things to also understand and be very clear about this is needed in this community, and you can tell them why is so valuable when you know, creating or launching something, do-gooders, social workers, oh, what this community needs a library. But if you would have talked to the people in the community, they would have told you, we actually need a bus system because how are we going to get to the library? We don't got sidewalks, we don't have. So, just backing this up and fully zooming out to realize that this therapeutic process that we're talking about, the mental health of our mentals from your perspectives is so great for this community. And of course, this being the trade space support group, Genesis was very, transparent on her social media this week in promoting this, talking about knowing the importance and the need for being shored up when you go through the mental struggles that is sickle cell. I'll end there, but I'll also encourage anyone to put your questions in chat or feel free to unmute with your questions or comments and I'll concede back to Elle and Heather.
So I love that Heather shared her experience because I think it really paints a picture how real this is in our community, how there are ebbs and flows to it. There's no straight line. There's no just one way to therapy. I think it's also important for us to understand that our perspective of therapy may change. Prior to going to therapy myself, I think I kind of looked at it like when you have a breakdown or when you have a problem, that's when you get you a therapist. And in my own experience, I've realized that I need it as a preventive measure. So to help me stay productive, to help me stay just even keeled, to help me cope through all the different things that I may encounter, that's why I seek therapy. Not because there's something wrong per se, but because I want to prevent things from going wrong. So that's kind of where we're coming from with this whole thought. And I wanted to, we do have a video to share with everybody. So I wanted to share it with you just so that, when we talk about the I Believe in Therapy campaign, it's been a 3-year campaign. The first year, we actually had a video that we participated in. And the whole point was so that our community would be able to see themselves depicted within this experience. It's not just, therapy isn't just for warriors. It's not just for caregivers. It's not just for healthcare professionals. It's for all of us. And so anybody who is impacted by sickle cell, whether they have sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease, or they love somebody with it, or they're taking care of somebody, that is what makes I Believe in Therapy so important. And Heather and I are wearing t-shirts that say therapy makes a difference. And that's really the message that we're trying to bring out to you. So I am going to share my screen. So for those of you who have not seen the campaign, we want to show you just the first year, what we did, and then we want to kind of talk about it. What type of thoughts came into your mind when you saw I Believe in Therapy? So I am going to make this big.
I believe in therapy.
I believe in therapy.
I believe in therapy. I believe in therapy.
I believe in therapy.
I believe in therapy. I am in therapy, and therapy has really helped me with being a mom to a 7-year-old warrior.
I'm in therapy, and therapy has helped me cope with my challenges as a patient and a physician.
I'm in therapy. Therapy has helped me with advocating for sickle cell as a sickle cell warrior.
I am in therapy. Therapy helps me with my mental health, with sickle cell disease.
I'm in therapy. Therapy has helped me heal past traumas as a sickle cell warrior.
Therapy has helped me power through survivor's guilt and adjust to my new identity as a stem cell transplant survivor.
Therapy makes a difference.
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 Therapy makes
A difference.
Mental health is critical to overall well-being, and it's no different for individuals living with sickle cell disease. In the United States alone, over 100,000 people live with sickle cell disease. Remember, mental wellness is just as important as physical wellness. The Sickle Cell Disease Association of America is here to support you every step of the way. Visit sicklecelldisease.org to learn more about how therapy can make a difference in your life. Together, let's prioritize mental health and thrive on our journey with sickle cell disease.
Awesome.
So
I can speak to that video. I love watching it. Every time I watch it, I'm like, yes, we love therapy.
That was beautiful.
yes, so I know for many of you in the audience, this was probably your very first time seeing that video. And I'm curious if you would be willing to just write in the chat, what's the first word that came to mind as you watched it? What did you think of the video that you just saw? So I see one from Dr. Tamia. It says, loved all the brown faces. So it is definitely people that we recognize in the community. Um, it's people who identify as being a part of the community. So I love that, everybody was ready and willing to participate. It's definitely been one of those experiences where, we would love to make videos every year, but we wanted to show that, you know, all of us are dealing with this sort of experience. It's not just a select few. It's not unique to women. It's not unique to men. It's literally anyone in our community can experience this. And so, um, I wanted to I wanted for people to see that some of the people that they see being very active also have a strong connection and want for therapy. Because sometimes, we do find strength in each other, in that honesty and transparency. And so that was very intentional. So I'm glad you all joined us. And I'm grateful that you're able to see the video and see that this is something that we as a community can create make our own movement. So if this is something that you're like, hey, that resonates with me, you can create a video and share it on your social media and just tag us. Let us know that this is something that makes a difference. I know the As One Foundation, every year they do a No Shades campaign.
Shades
And
Day, Shades Day, yeah.
Yes, and you take a picture. I know I've tried to participate each year where I've taken a picture in shades and I shared I tagged them, and that's something that we can do. So when we see different campaigns and things like that, that's something we can participate in. It's not just for the select few, it's not just for the people you see in that campaign. You can create a video too and let people know that this is something that you believe in, that you participate in. And so I see some more comments. Claudette says mental health is just as important as physical health. Absolutely, absolutely. So I agree with that 100%. And we were able to see Regina from the SCDAA. She definitely reiterated that fact that this is important to us as a community as a whole, from the top on down. And Genesis says, I love that it amplifies mental health when it sometimes can be put on the back burner. Yeah, we have to think about a lot of stuff. We think about finances, we think about our necessities like our shelter, food. There's so much that we have to think about. Getting prescriptions, just adulting in everyday life can be a challenge all on its own. And so sometimes it's like, I want to talk to somebody who's not going to judge me, who's not going to change the way they think about me. And a therapist is that person. Like, I can be real and honest with no judgment.
And
No.
not to interrupt Carly, but a therapist
Mhm.
doesn't always mean therapist, right? Sometimes we're in spaces where it's like it's your best friend who's giving you the really good advice, or your auntie. We all got that one auntie who we call and be like, oh my God, what these people doing? Or it's your mama or your daddy, or it's your pastor at your church. I went I went and had like a whole, like, I think a 1 hour conversation about like some drama going on in my family with my pastor. Just, what is this mess? And he was like, oh, I had no idea this was going on. I was like, well, this is between you and I, right? But it was just a way. Sometimes we have to unload, because sometimes carrying around that weight is burdensome in itself. And I'm a journaler, so I write a lot of things down. But if that's not your MO, sometimes it's calling your girlfriends and having a 5 hour conversation and going until 2:30. I mean, it happens. I mean, I'm a queen for talking to my friends until late at night, and it's bad for business. But I do it because sometimes you just need to giggle, laugh, let it out, cry, and have those moments. And it's okay to talk to whoever. It's not always going to be a therapist. Sometimes it's just who's there in that moment. But we do recommend, the reason why we recommend therapy is because they can give solid advice back, right? And help you create a plan. But with also saying that, Carly and I have been really awesome we created a little workbook that will help guide you through. Oh, you can't see it because I have my thing
Yeah.
on, but it would help guide you through therapy, and it can help walk you through the phases. It's a self-guided book, so it guides you through. Has writing prompts, and you write to the prompts, and it really helps explore and open up feelings of how you're feeling in this moment. And I can tell you that I myself have filled my own book out, and I probably need more, but I would show you pages, but they are writing, uh, but it's an amazing little tool, something that I've even used myself. It just talks about what's going on. What are those things? And getting them on paper, you would not believe the breath it gives you.
How do we get that? Oh, there. Oh,
I knew Carly was on it.
yes, she is on it. The link is
Elle
in
is
the
always
chat,
on it.
everybody. And is this a paper version or is it a digital version?
It's a paper book, so you can actually write in it. And I think there's something cathartic about writing, right? We don't do a lot of that, of actually writing anymore. So it is a paper version. And also that way, maybe you can leave it out on your desk and you can think about it. So it's not something that you have to do right away. There's no dates in it. It's no rush. It doesn't say this is a 90-day journal. This is made for you to do it at your pace and what talks to your heart. But we do encourage people to genuinely do that. If you're having a hard time right now, get the book. It's an easier way than actually hiring a therapist. However, I still believe me, I'm going to always advocate for talking to somebody.
Yes, I wanted to share just a few of the prompts so people can get an idea of, maybe what are some of the prompts. The journal has multiple parts, so it's not just a journal, it's a workbook. So first, it does start with journal prompts. Then there are affirmations. Then there are questions that you can ask to vet a therapist near you. And then there are art prompts and next steps. So the book takes you through a whole journey. We keep referring to this as a journey and not just kind of, something to do because it's a process and it's not all going to happen in one day. So just to give you a little bit of an opportunity to see what type of prompts we have, I'm going to share one with you. What is something silly that always makes you laugh? So sometimes when we think about just our different experiences, sometimes it can be heavy. We also need to be thinking about those moments, that make us laugh. For me, when I'm sad and I need to recoup, or when I've worked just way too hard and I need to refresh, I watch a movie. And usually I try to watch like a comedy or something funny so that I don't feel even worse afterwards. But it's something very powerful about laughter. And so that's one of the prompts in the book. Another prompt is if I could live in any time period or place, where would I choose and why? So some of the prompts are about how you're feeling, how the day went, and things like that. But some of these prompts are lighter, are very open, very general. So it's different things. It's not all one type of thing. And so there's another prompt, what happened today? That's very open-ended. You don't have to write a whole book. A couple lines will do. So you're just given a few lines to jot down some things. Another thing is what ways can you reach out to a friend or loved one tomorrow to share a moment of joy or support and strengthen your connection? And I think that's a really big one because often when we help people, we help ourselves. So all of us on this call support each other. The fact that you're here in this trait space, that is supportive. You're showing up for us. And so when people show up for us, we want to show up for them. That is one way that we can show support in our community. We can reciprocate that. It's not just one-sided. So those are just some examples of the journaling prompts. But if you're not a writer, again, there are art prompts in the book. You can draw, you can paint. It gives you that freedom to express yourself in other ways.
That is awesome. President Etta is saying I would like that workbook. And Heather says levity is powerful. What makes me feel good is watching other people laugh. For real, for real. I mean, it's just absolutely contagious. But I already have it in my cart. I clicked on the link, so I want to make sure that everybody sees the link in the chat. It's an Amazon link, and it also has a password captcha thing, or at least it was on my screen. But I put the captcha in, and then it's already in my cart. So I will. And so my question is, um, beyond sickle cell, could I give this to my nephew? Who is not trait or disease, he's just my nephew. And I'm always, not being a mother, I'm always, hoping to share tools with him. So can you speak to that? And can you give one little piece of advice? I know it's in the book, but how would you advise beginning the search for a therapist, or is there a particular platform that you'd recommend?
So one of the things in the book, and I'm going to add it to the chat now. So in the video, you saw that last call to action, and that was to go to sicklecelldisease.org to learn more. So there is actually a whole toolkit that we've created that is on sicklecelldisease.org's website, and that will really guide you every step. I'm going to bring it up. Let's see.
And I can tell you that honestly, I have used the toolkit myself to find therapists over the last couple of years as we built this project because, just behaviors change. You need a new therapist for something different. And I have found it very helpful. I have referred to it and I've referred family members to it and friends. And it's a really great space to go and find help for specific needs in that moment. And it's been it's not just a tool for y'all as we continue to grow into our own tools themselves. And I have, even though I helped create it, I have still used it myself. And I can tell you it's an amazing, amazing tool.
Thank you. And thank you, Carly, for putting that. Okay, good. I need you here full time, Carly.
I
Every
know
third
she's good,
Tuesday.
isn't she?
Yes.
She's amazing. She's always 3 steps ahead.
Yes. Oh
You're on
man.
mute, Carly.
And Genesis has joined us, so we have we're approaching 13 minutes, so
Yes. Welcome, Genesis. It's good to see you. So, what we have here is really the toolkit, and I'm going to show you just the different parts of it. But the link is in the chat. The shortened link is bit.ly SDAA mental health. So, all lowercase, you can type that in or click on the link here. It's bit.ly, that's bit.ly/SDAA mental health. And so all together, and you'll go to this page. You can also get there from the homepage as well. But this is the I Believe in Therapy toolkit. And you'll see Heather, she has a part where she's talking to other warriors and really sharing her personal story and personal information. Dr. Marjorie was also a part of this Inception project, and she shares several different points. And then you'll see me, I share several different points. But in our community, there are a lot of resources. So one of the things that has been very important to me is to connect the community with the resources that exist.
Right.
So we often have different people who are creating things, but sometimes we don't know. And earlier we used the word support. So this toolkit helps support those initiatives that are in the community. So I want to highlight a couple things, but it says here's a toolkit for warriors, caregivers, and healthcare workers impacted by sickle cell disease. And so you have different points here. Talk to a therapist. It gives you a list of different therapists, but the first link is to Cayenne Wellness Center. I want to just pause there because I think that is an organization that has really done a great job of educating therapists in our community before they talk to the population. So before a therapist, if you seek therapy through Cayenne Wellness Center, it's at no cost to you.
wow.
So Cayenne Wellness Center is paying that therapist. It's not that it's like, oh, this free service. Sometimes when we see things in the community that we hear is free, we think they're less than.
Right,
Yeah.
And that is not the case. This organization is literally paying for your therapy. So it's free to you.
but
It's
it's
no
not
cost
clear.
to you, but it is a cost associated with that. I wanted to kind of highlight that because it is a valuable service. And, in our community, we sometimes see free as not of value, but that is not the case. They're literally paying those therapists to talk to the community. And before they talk to the community, they educate them. Because how many times I know when I for a therapist. I was like, look, I need somebody who understands the complexity of my family. I don't feel like explaining it all over again. I explain it to my family all the time. I am literally tired of explaining this thing to people. Sure, I do it when it's time to advocate, but I don't want to do it when it's time for me to talk to my therapist. And so, I'm just letting you know that if you are in California, unfortunately, you do have to be a California resident to take advantage of this service, but they will literally train the therapist on what sickle cell is and all the complexities and the different dynamics that that are at play, and then they connect with us.
Wow.
There's also psychology today, therapy for Black girls. There's also other links, like there's one for therapy for Black men. I have to make sure that's the link, but it does exist. I know that for sure. Mental health in America. There's also some support groups that exist, educational resources, and all of this has been shared with that intentionality in mind. Sometimes people in our community, they may need other resources. So you have other resources that are mentioned here. And so it's just important for us to look through this to see what is relevant, to do regular check-ins, and even try mindfulness apps. Like I myself, I have an app called Headspace. And I have another app. It's through my health insurance, Omida. So I don't know, my health insurance is through Cigna. And so they had an app for those who have the plan and said, hey, I want to make sure you're being healthy, check in. So I have like a health coach.
Hmm.
And they send you different things that you may need. And so that's something that's available to my whole family. But sometimes your healthcare insurance may have different apps that would sometimes be a cost, but are free to you. And sometimes they can come with like a dietitian or a nutritionist. That's what comes with mine. And so the two that are mentioned are apps that were created by people in the community. So the SCD Companion app, the founders are in Canada, but they are directly connected with the sickle cell community. And then the Living Well sickle cell app, and that was through Andrea Matthews and her family. She is a caregiver and they have an organization and they founded the Living Well sickle cell app. So there are different resources that exist. If you know of other resources that you think should be added to this toolkit, let us know. I'll definitely make sure that they are included. But these are just some of the things that we have found that exist. So this is a place where you can start.
That is awesome. And like I said, please feel free to unmute if you have any questions. Heather, if you have any other comments, and Genesis, do you want to jump in also?
Oh,
And
well,
I
I don't have it. Carly kind of covered everything. I don't think that there's anything left to cover. But the thing is I think one thing that I always want to say, and I continue to say about this initiative, is the campaign is not over, right? And it's just like we're something we're really proud of. But the thing is we want it to be used. And our goal is to make sure that if it's needed, it's there and there are tools again. So our goal is to if you need help, you can reach out. Carly and I can direct your path. We're more than willing to direct you and say, hey, let's get you what you need. We're not therapists. We're not licensed in any way. However, we do want our community to be seen at all times because we understand and I know from her firsthand what it feels like to be unseen.
I love that. It's not a campaign, it's a tool. Thank you so much for taking us through that, Carly. As we close out with our 6 minutes left, I will just, on behalf of the As One Foundation, express my gratitude. Number one, to Genesis for helping us birth this space, this safe place, and certainly to our guest tonight for sharing. I mean, this is magnificent. I mean, high dollar, for real, for real. And everyone that's joined us, I'll say, just follow everybody. Carly has put links in. Let's follow and put these books in the chat. AsOneFoundation.org is our website. Let's keep in touch. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And then I'll surrender the last words to Genesis.
Yes. Thank you so much, Heather and Elle, for bringing this to Trait Space. I believe this is a excellent resource for warriors to be able to really take hold of their mental health and being able to really just hone in on being able to take care of themselves, not only physically, but mentally. So thank you for bringing this to the forefront and sharing this resource. I'm really excited to look at it and take a deeper dive into it. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for everything. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next month for Trait Space. And if you guys are a regular, we look forward for you to being here and for our new guests to be here for next month as well. So thank you, Dr. Austin. Thank you, Heather. And thank you, Elle, for being here. And we'll close it out.
Thank you all for having us. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Good night.
Right.